Hey viewers, my name is Cara. I'm your host for Tuesdays here on the Pagan Perspective, and this week we're talking about living spaces. Yucca from our Pagan Perspective team suggested this topic. The description will have the text of the actual topic as usual, but what we're talking about is our living spaces and how we set them up. Is there meaning to how we arrange our living spaces, and are there certain arrangements that facilitate our path and our practice? And they also specifically asked us to talk about like our home or also a dorm room type situation. So I would definitely like to touch on the dorm room style thing, because it is back to school season in a lot of places. The kids around where I live now have gone back to school just this week, and I can't even believe it. I feel like it's so soon. I feel like I went back to school later in August, but I could just be misremembering because it's been a while. But anyway, before I get into it, I also want to say happy anniversary to the collab. This week is the celebration of the collab's anniversary. We are wrapping up our 9th year of doing this collab channel, so we're going into year 10. The collab is 9 years old this week, but we are going into our 10th year. Oh my gosh, time flies. So I have various videos from past years from my personal channel and from this collab channel. Excuse me, I was adjusting the camera and it almost fell forward on its face. Anyway, I have videos from the past years on this channel and my personal channel that have shown some of the altar spaces that I had set up. However, I know that this topic is not about altar spaces, it's about living spaces. So I actually already recorded this video once and it was way too long, so I'm re-recording it, but I had some epiphanies during that earlier recording that I definitely want to touch on, and I think are really more the main body of this topic, because it is about living spaces, not altar spaces. But I want to talk about those spaces because it has to do with how I used to arrange my living space. So, in my dorm room at college, I had half of the room, right? And so it was a tiny space to begin with. But I basically kept my sort of everyday and school stuff, like my bed, my clothes, everything like that, was toward the closet. So like everything was over there. And then my space was really more the area closest to the window. I had my desk. And my desk was set up where it was in the corner. I was facing the door because I'm one of those people. I think I got that from my mom, and my mom will tell you that she got it from Police Academy, and she and two of her brothers, two of my uncles, were police officers, and so they and lots of other people who work in sort of protective type work will probably tell you that they always prefer to be seated where they can see the door in any place that they are, and I definitely got that through my mom. So I like being with my back to the wall, and I can see the door, so I can see if anyone's coming in while I'm doing my work. And in my dorm room, my window was behind me, and I had an altar on a small end table by my dresser, which was on the other side of my bed, at least some of the years that I was at school. And that just had, I honestly don't remember the specific things that were on it, but I'm sure it's in videos, so we could go back and check it out. But I remember it just having simple representations, elemental representations, god and goddess representations, and then just some other general tools that I was allowed to have. So like I remember I had my ritual bell, my little hand bell. I remember that I had that with me, and I didn't have candles or incense or anything like that because we weren't allowed to have that in the dorm rooms. So I used a lot of color symbolism and representations, and we've done separate videos on that subject, like how you practice when you're at school or when you're living in a dorm room or in an apartment where you're not allowed to have certain things. So we refer to that as restricted practice. When your practice is restricted by not allowing you to have certain things, what do you do? So I don't want to talk too much about that in this video because that's a different topic and we've had videos about that. But, so I had very simple things like that, and I pulled out some of these. These are very simple. This is something that I have lying around my house that is the kind of thing that I might have used. And they are the little glass, they're not really marbles, but they're the little glass things that you can get that typically go in like floral arrangements. So these little things. And this is the kind of thing that I might have used as a color representation of the elements. So we might have the red one for fire, water or air, blue, yellow could be air or earth, depending on the system that you're using. This kind of dark bluish purple could be water or could be center, mystery, spirit, because like I said, it's kind of purplish. And then this clear one could be air or it could be your center. All colors, absence of color, stuff like that. So color representations, very simple items that don't look witchy are things that I might have used. But I was very lucky in college. I got randomly paired with my roommate freshman year, and I just so happened to be paired with a wonderful human being named Sarah, who is Jewish, and so we started talking about our religions together very quickly, like over instant messenger before we ever met, and she was cool with the fact that I'm a witch, and I was like, I'd like to have an altar in the dorm room if that's okay, and she was like, yeah, cool, like that's awesome, and I celebrated Hanukkah with her family, like almost every year throughout college, even though we didn't live together every year, we remained friends. So I lucked out. I know that that's not everyone's experience, but I was able to have a witchy looking altar openly, and we even like cut out pagan themed like winter solstice decoration ornaments, printed them out and colored them and hung them on our door with a wreath and like all kinds of things. We had like Hanukkah ones and winter solstice ones. It was cool. We're dorks, but I love you, Sarah. Thank you for making my freshman year experience so great. But if you can't have something like that, then yeah, little colorful things, little just things that have meaning. So I had those kind of things on a table, but then I also, and I know I have videos of this, I feel like there is a video of an Imbolc altar that I did while I was at school. I had a little stained glass sunshine smiley face. It was a smiling sun, like that. It was a sunshine stained glass thing, like a little picture frame. And I could switch out the frame. I remember it had kind of like a wintry looking frame to it already. It was like blue. And when I realized I could draw different things and switch out the frame, I was like, oh, I'll just do this for all the different holidays. Well, I never ended up doing that, but I thought it was a cool idea at the time. But I had that stained glass sun sitting on my windowsill, and I would kind of just put other things around it. So it would be things that I found in nature, like pine cones, flowers, might be some of my change that I had in my pocket, it might be a fortune cookie, fortune, whatever, just things. And I would put them there to represent the season or whatever was going on at the time. And so I feel like that's one main theme of how I set up my spaces, whether it be living spaces or altar spaces, is that it's honestly just an accumulation of things. And if that ain't my life, I don't know what to tell you. Because going into the next thing I wanted to talk about, the way that my current space is set up, where I live now, I'm in a new apartment with my partner, and we've lived here for, like, this month will be a year now. And if you're following me, if you're sponsoring my videos on Patreon at patreon.com/cutewitch772, then you got to find out that I was moving before anyone else did. I'm sure a lot of people have figured it out by now because my backgrounds have been different for my videos, but I guess it could just be in front of a different wall and I rearranged. But no, I did in fact move a year ago, and there were some behind-the-scenes stuff and like a tour of the house and stuff like that for my Patreon sponsors. And this space is very differently set up, not only because it's a different space, but also because I'm sharing the space with someone else. So it's not just my things. So it's been a blending of what I like to have and what they like to have and where we like to put things. So I'm recording this video today in my living room instead of up in my office where I usually record at my desk with my bookshelf. But we have lots of bookshelves in our house in general. So there's one, which as you can see has the Ghostbusters themed area on top of it. That's my partner's bookshelf with sort of graphic novels and manga and such over there, and Ghostbusters. And then this is one of my shelves that used to be altar spaces in my old house. You might remember that it was behind me in a lot of videos that I did in my living room area at my previous home. But it does not have altar spaces on it now. It just has accumulations of things because I don't really have any permanent altar spaces set up in this house. When we do ritual, I set up a temporary altar for that ritual on various surfaces. Samhain was a pretty big orchestration here. It was the first Sabbath that we celebrated here, and which is silly because we lived here during the autumnal equinox last year, but it wasn't a big to-do. Samhain was the first big thing that we celebrated, and I had several side tables with different altar areas. The table that my camera is resting on right now is like a little all-purpose table that we use for everything, and I had that laid out as the central working altar with the elemental things that we would actually be carrying around the circle. And I had like an area over here with a mirror that was draped with this, actually this black and gold Celtic knotwork fabric that you may recognize that I've had for years. It's been in my videos before, even in my dorm room. I had the mirror set up over here with candles in front of it. I had candles like all along our TV stand, like the entertainment center. It was a lot. And yeah, but other than that, yeah, I just kind of set things up for the purpose, and then we leave it up for a few days because it's like it took a lot of work. We're gonna leave it up for a few days and then take it down. Over the winter, we have this nice big window here that's providing the natural light for this video. Lighting provided by Mother Nature. And it has a great like window seat ledge area. And over the winter, when it was too cold to be in that window seat and to have it like open, we had it sealed off with plastic to help it stay warmer in here. And I had this white lace cloth that I laid down because it reminds me of snow, and that was the base for all of my winter-themed altars throughout that season, and I just had that all there. But when spring came, I took that down, I did my spring cleaning, opened the windows back up again, and now my cat has a little blanket in the window seat, so that's like her area to watch what's going on outside. And the rest of that window seat right now, like my cauldron is over there, and some statuary type things, a stack of books that I've been using a lot recently, and then the rest is like my crystal collection is scattered across it because I've been going through my crystal collection, trying to identify some more things that my mom gave me that I didn't really know what they were, and like cleansing crystals and just like going through and organizing them. So that's what's over there right now. So my space is really set up differently. At my old apartment, I had multiple altar spaces. I had altar spaces on shelves everywhere. I have these lamps with shelves on them, and they were each individual altar spaces to a deity or an energy that I was working with. You know, there might be one to prosperity was one of them. I had altars to the Fae. I had an altar for Athena, which was also an altar for justice. I had an altar for the archetype of the witch. I had one for the archetype of the wild woman. I had just all kinds of things all over the house, mostly in the living room, because the living room is the space where I do most of my work. I would love to do more work in my office, and previously when I've lived with roommates, obviously the majority of my work was done in my bedroom, because the bedroom was my space. But when I have, you know, my own whole living space situation, I usually hang out in the living room. So a lot of my stuff is in the living room. But in this house, I have not set up permanent altar spaces. Yet we do still have themed areas. So like, and my partner's a librarian, so like setting up displays and themed things is like, we both love it. So obviously we have the Ghostbusters themed area behind me. Over there, across from me, there's a little like Batman area and a Doctor Who area kind of next to each other. And the shelf behind that, on my lamp, I have one shelf that is just wizards. Because I just happen to have a wizard candle holder that was always just sitting around collecting dust, so I put it on a shelf so that at least it can collect dust in a prominent position. And I have a small book, literally a tiny book, that just is called Wizards. And it's like one of those fun facts about a little subject, and like the cover is like velvet. It's one of those things that you would get at like a bookstore gift section, like a little gift shop item. So it's literally just a wizard candle holder and a book about wizards. That's that shelf. It's a wizard shelf now instead of a witch shelf. But it's not because of my practice, it's because of my life and how my brain works. I just like to have little areas that are themed. And so I really got to thinking today, so thank you, Yucca. It's like, what do I do? How do I set up my space? How does it work? So a lot of this was revealed in the things that I already just said and what I just said about college and how I worked my space, right? I like to be in a corner. I like to be able to see the door, and I usually have my back to a wall, and I like to be near natural light. So that reminded me, I've been doing this ever since I was a little kid. When I was growing up, my mom had one of those electric fireplaces that was like a triangle. It was something that fits in the corner of your living room or whatever room you put it in. So it's kind of like one of these corner shelves, only I don't have this one facing a corner. It's at the edge of my like half wall. But anyway, it would like, the fireplace would fit into the corner of your room, and then it would sort of be like a little kitty corner situation. So it was an electric heater, and I'm a freeze baby. I've always been like really cold most of the time. So I would sit there as a kid. I would sit in front of this electric heater fireplace with it turned all the way up, and I would sit cross-legged in front of this thing, and usually still bundled up because I was still cold. And I would have my book, or my oracle cards, or my bowl of cereal, or whatever it was I was doing. It didn't matter what. I would have that, and if I was working on something, like if I was doing homework, if I was studying tarot cards, if I was looking at my crystals, if I was coloring, I would have my crayons, you know, whatever. Everything was laid out around me in a semicircle. And I know that I am not alone in that. I know that a lot of us work like that. You just like sit on the floor and everything ends up in a circle around you at arm's reach. That space was always, so I was in a corner with a window right next to me, so I had natural light, and I was facing the door and all of my stuff within arm's reach. That is the formula for how I set up my spaces. Because I was thinking, that's how my dorm room was set up. That's my altar was right there on the windowsill. My books were right there. And as you've seen, I normally record my videos upstairs in my office here, and I'm sitting right next to that bookshelf that has all my witchy books on it. So when I'm doing work at my desk, boom, it's right there. I can pull it out and reference stuff. And the window is right there to my right, so I have the natural light for the videos and for my work. Down here in my living room, I have my round end table where I usually do my card readings when I'm working on stuff for myself. But then also if I'm not, I set up my little miniature laptop there, and that's where I upload my videos. It's right next to my giant window in my living room. And it's facing the door, and it's in a corner. Like, that's how my spaces are. Top two things that I have realized is, like, my spaces are always set up around where the natural light is, and bonus if it's a window that I can open. Because if I am feeling really stuffed in, you know, really claustrophobic and like I need to get outside, but I also need to do work that I can't do outside, if I can open that window and feel the breeze and feel like I'm not inside, but I'm not outside either, that kind of in-between area, that's perfect for the work that I have to do. And so I feel like I'm part of what's going on outside, but I'm still inside. And natural light by a window, preferably something that I can open. My books are usually right there, and everything is within arm's reach. That's the thing. Natural light, and everything has to be where I can reach it, or I'm not going to do it, honestly. That's just something that I know about myself, which is why my space, my living space, is such a clutter, and it looks like such a mess. But it's really all like themed spaces, like I was talking about before. Everything is an accumulation of things that have some kind of theme in my mind that tie them together. But to everyone else, it might not look like anything. Like looking at one of my little altar spaces across the room, and it just looks like a jumble of stuff. But when I look at it and I'm like, what is that altar for? Like looking at what I've put there, I'm like, what is that? To me right now, like it looks like an altar for the balance between life and death, because it's got items that very much speak to me of life and growth and progress. And then there are also items up there that are about death and decay and turning inwards and coming to the end of a cycle and harvest and reaping what you've sown. So it looks like just an accumulation of stuff, but when I look at it and I'm like, what is this about? That's what it says to me. To other people, I don't know what it would look like. So I was going around my house trying to figure this out, because I was like, well, I don't really have permanent altar spaces anymore. I don't really set up permanent altar spaces like I used to. That's not how I operate. So what are the things that are common throughout everywhere I've lived? And it's natural light, working near a window, and everything has to be in arm's reach. So next to my couch right now, I have a tarot deck right next to the couch. I have tarot decks at that window seat where my little table is where I work. I have tarot decks upstairs at my desk. I have books there. I have books there. I have books up there. All of my crocheting and yarn stuff is right there by my couch. So when I decide I want to crochet, it's right there. I can pick it up and do it while we watch Bones on Hulu. Not sponsored. And all of my jewelry making stuff is right there. So when I need to make jewelry, it should be upstairs in my office, because that's where I wanted to have my crafting section, but it's not, because realistically, this is my space. Like, this is where I do most of my work, is in my living room. Like, this is where we hang out, watch stuff, and I work on stuff at the same time. So we can be watching MasterChef Junior and I'm making orders for Etsy, or, you know, whatever it is, and just everything happens here, and that's just logically, realistically, that's how I operate. And so everything is right here. It's got to be, I have to be in a comfy space. I have my armchairs. One armchair is down here, one is upstairs in my office. They used to both be in my living room at my old place, but now I have them in both spaces. I have my comfy pillows everywhere, so I can feel like I am in my little corner, secure. I have my yoga mat right here at arm's reach if I decide to do yoga, because this is the room where we do it. So I just pick this up, roll it out. I can do yoga immediately, because if I have to go find my yoga mat, no, I'd sooner just do it on the carpet and like not use a mat than anything, but it's right here in case I want it. And if I need a bolster for anything, I have these giant pillows right here. So if I need to sit to adjust for a yoga pose, I don't have a bolster. I have one block, but typically I just use these. So I've got things to make me comfortable and be able to work on whatever I want to work on are everywhere, all at arm's reach. I have pillows everywhere. I have blankets everywhere. Giant stuffed animals in both corners of this room. There's 2 of them. And incense burners everywhere. There are like 5 incense burners just in this room, including one that my partner put together, which I think is genius. That is a green teacup, or like coffee cup, that they took a wine cork from my cork collection when I used to drink a lot of wine. I don't drink a lot of wine anymore, but I used to. They took a wine cork from my collection and put a stick of incense in the cork to hold it, and then put the cork inside this cup. So when the ashes fall off the incense, it falls inside the cup. So even if we don't have incense burners, we make incense burners, like incense holders, out of things. Like there's an incense burner in my bedroom. There's one on my dining room table over there, even though there's 5 other ones on this floor in this living room. There's one in my office. Did I already say that? There's one in my office. There's one in the bedroom. There isn't one in the bathroom, but I just grab one from the adjacent room to bring it in the bathroom if I want to light an incense while I'm taking a bath or whatever. There's candles everywhere. And like I said, there's usually tarot decks everywhere. So no matter where I am, if I am inspired to suddenly do some work with tarot, there's at least one deck nearby. I usually keep one in my bag too. So that's just, yeah, it's all based around natural light and everything within arm's reach. But then also like somewhere that I feel safe and secure and comfortable. So I'm usually set up with my back to a wall or in a corner and where I can see the door. That's it. That's my formula. So thank you very much for watching. I would love to hear your formula for how you set up your spaces and if it means anything to you and how you set things up to facilitate your path in your practice. And don't forget that because it's the collab's anniversary, the regular weekly hosts are taking the rest of the month off. So the next 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks of August, will be substitute hosts weeks. And they will be doing a whole bunch of topics for you, whatever they want to talk about. Choose your own adventure. So, I will see you next time on this channel in September. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to submit topics if you would like to do so and have not done so already so that we can answer some new questions and talk about some new topics in the future on the collab. I'll see you next time. Don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.